Welcome to this whip check.
Hey there.
Today we're taking a close look at something really generating some buzz. The Telo MT1.
Yeah.
This all-electric vehicle they're actually calling a mini truck.
Right. Mini truck. It's an interesting category.
Totally. So we're going to unpack what makes it stand out, and get a clear picture of whether it actually lives up to the hype we're hearing.
And for this whip check, we've got some really good material to dig into.
Yeah. What are we looking at?
We've been looking at transcripts from two recent video reviews. There's Jay Leno's first drive.
Okay, classic Jay.
And then Doug Demuro's detailed dive into all the quirks and features.
Doug.
Yeah.
Always thorough.
Exactly. Both give a really fantastic kind of hands-on look at this. Well, it's a pre-production prototype still.
Right. Important caveat. Pre-production. So our goal for this whip check is pretty simple, really.
Yeah.
We just want to pull out the most interesting, the most important details about the Telo MT1 from these reviews. We want you listening to understand its unique design, the capabilities they're shooting for, and the overall thinking behind it.
Gotcha. So where do we start? The name, maybe.
Yeah, okay. So the name Telo, that caught my attention straight away.
Telo, okay.
Apparently, it comes from the Greek word telo.
Oh, interesting. Telos, like purpose.
Yeah.
Or end goal.
Exactly. Purpose. It seems like that name really gets to the heart of what they're trying to do. A truck designed with a very specific purpose in mind, especially for, navigating city life.
That makes sense. A purposeful truck. And the team behind it, they bring some serious experience, right?
They do. The founders have backgrounds in the early days of Tesla.
Okay, so they know EVs.
Right. That gives them a deep understanding of electric vehicle tech, basically, from the ground up.
Yeah.
And they also have roots in the Stanford solar car project.
Ah, the solar car stuff. That suggests, a strong focus on engineering efficiency, innovation.
Definitely. You kind of have to wonder what specific lessons they learned from those early days that are shaping the Telo now.
Yeah, like what pitfalls they're trying to avoid this time around.
Good point. And it's fascinating where they drew their initial inspiration from.
Which was?
They looked at those tiny Japanese K-trucks.
Oh, the Kai trucks. Yeah, those little 660cc city things. Super practical in Japan.
Exactly. All about maximizing space. They basically adapted that core idea for the American market.
So taking that smart packaging concept.
Yeah, and asking, how can we make this work for what people need here? More space, more safety maybe.
Right. The fundamental challenge, it seems, was just clever packaging. Like, how do you fit 5 people and a truly usable truck bed
into the absolute smallest possible vehicle?
Yeah. Apparently, it started really basic, like a sketch on graph paper.
Wow. Just a packaging study.
Trying to solve that core spatial puzzle.
Okay, let's get into the physical size then, because this is where it gets really interesting.
Right. Because when you first see it,
yeah, in pictures or videos, it kind of tricks your eye, doesn't it? You think it's maybe bigger.
It does, but in reality, the Telo MT1 is about the same length as a 2-door Mini Cooper.
Get out. A Mini.
Yeah, around 152 inches long. Doug Demuro even pointed out it's shorter than a Honda Fit.
That's genuinely wild, especially when you remember it's supposed to be a truck.
It's pretty remarkable packaging, fitting 4 doors and a truck bed in that footprint.
It really makes you rethink what a truck even needs to be size-wise.
Oh, and the benefits for city driving are obvious, right? Parking, maneuvering.
Oh, totally. Imagine trying to park a full-size pickup versus this thing in, San Francisco.
Exactly. Much easier to live with day to day in a dense urban spot.
And the design philosophy itself is quite distinct. They talk about a one-box design.
Right. Not the usual 2-box.
Explain that. For people not deep into car design, what's the difference there? We're used to the 2-box, separate engine bit, separate cabin bit.
Exactly. So because you ditch the bulky internal combustion engine, the transmission, all that hardware up front, you get way more freedom in how you arrange everything else.
So the EV powertrain enables that.
Totally. Those exposed front tires pushed way forward. That's a direct result.
Okay, I see.
It lets them push the cabin forward and just maximize the usable length inside for people and cargo, all within those compact dimensions.
Those front tires definitely give it a unique look. Sure. Very forward.
Cab for it, yeah. And it's interesting, even on a vehicle this, relatively small, they've thought about aerodynamics.
Really? Like what?
They've got these holes or vents just behind the front tires. Apparently, they channel air through the doors.
Through the doors? Huh.
Aerodynamics, presumably. Maybe reduces drag around the wheels. It might not be a massive gain, but with EVs?
Every little bit helps the range.
Exactly. Every bit counts.
And visually, it seems like they carried that shape through.
Yeah, there's a consistency, that
Yeah.
sort of oblong shape of the air channels. You see it echoed in the door handles, even the headlights.
Ah, okay. Ties it together.
Gives it a cohesive look. And then there's the glass roof.
Right. That probably helps it feel bigger inside, too. But maybe that's an option.
Yeah, they mentioned maybe a metal roof on base models, but the glass roof definitely adds to that feeling of spaciousness.
Okay, so it's small, compact,
Yeah.
but let's get down to the truck stuff. How practical is that bed?
Surprisingly practical. In its standard setup, the bed size is apparently comparable to the short bed on a Toyota Tacoma.
Really?
Huh.
A taco short bed. That's a benchmark.
Yeah, which is a very popular mid-size truck, so that's impressive packaging again.
Okay, but what if you need more length?
Well, this is where a really clever bit of engineering comes in. They've designed a folding midgate.
Midgate. Like on the old Chevy Avalanche.
Sort of, yeah. It's basically the rear seat back and the wall between the cabin and the bed. That whole section folds down.
And that does what? Extends the bed.
Extends the bed all the way to 8 feet.
8 feet? In a truck the size of a Mini.
Exactly. For a vehicle this small, that kind of versatility is, well, it's a game changer.
Yeah, that addresses a huge limitation you usually find in smaller trucks or SUVs with beds.
Totally. And Doug Demuro pointed out another smart thing about the bed.
What's that?
Because the wheel arches inside the bed are smaller compared to, say, the latest Tacoma, the bed floor is actually wider. Makes it easier to load flat stuff, like sheets of plywood, maybe?
Oh, that's a great practical point. Something you wouldn't think about until you're actually trying to load something wide.
Right. One of those details you'd appreciate. And then there's the Monster Tunnel.
Okay, that's a fantastic name. What is it?
It's basically a storage compartment that runs underneath the bed floor.
Under the bed. How do you access it?
From the sides, apparently. And maybe even from the bed itself in future versions, they hinted.
Huh. What would you put in there?
Imagine sliding golf clubs right through. Or luggage. Skis. Long items.
Okay, yeah, that's clever.
Yeah.
Really maximizing the usable volume.
You do wonder a bit about how weatherproof that tunnel is, though. That'd be important.
Good question. Needs to be sealed well. And how do you tie stuff down in the main bed?
It's got EL tracks. You know those integrated rail?
Oh, yeah, like in some bigger trucks or vans.
Exactly. With configurable tie-down points.
Mm-hmm.
And they're rated for up to 1,000 pounds.
1,000 pounds. Okay, so they're serious about the utility, even in this small package.
Definitely underscores that it's meant to be used as a truck, not just look like one.
Right. Okay, let's switch gears. The powertrain. What makes this thing go?
Well, it's all electric, obviously. They're planning 2 versions.
Okay.
A dual motor, all-wheel drive setup, and then a probably more affordable single motor rear-wheel drive.
Makes sense to offer both. And the system voltage.
The prototype they showed is running on a 400-volt system.
Which is pretty standard for many EVs now.
Yeah, but interestingly, they said the architecture is designed so they can easily switch to an 800-volt system later.
Oh, okay. Future-proofing it, basically. 800 volts means potentially faster charging.
Right. Faster charging, maybe lighter wiring, potentially more efficiency. It's a good sign they're thinking ahead.
And performance. What are the numbers looking like?
For the dual motor version, pretty astonishing for the size. They're estimating around 500 horsepower.
500. Wow.
And a 0 to 60 mile per hour time of around 4 seconds.
4 seconds flat. In a mini truck? That's legitimately quick.
Yeah, faster than a lot of actual sports cars. Definitely throws out the idea that a small truck has to be slow.
Absolutely. What about range? That's always the big question with EVs.
The projected figures seem pretty competitive. They're aiming for roughly 260 miles for the single motor.
Okay, respectable.
And then up to 350 miles for the dual motor, but that's with an optional extended range battery.
350 miles is pretty solid. Where are the batteries?
Packaged low in the floor, as you'd expect. Standard EV practice now.
Right. Helps with weight distribution, center of gravity, handling.
All that good stuff. And of course, you get regenerative braking.
Standard EV feature. Did they mention if it's adjustable?
Jay Leno brought that up, actually. He mentioned some drivers, himself included, really prefer adjustable regen levels.
Yeah, like using paddles sometimes.
Exactly. He mentioned paddles on other EVs. So it'll be interesting to see what level of customization Telo offers in the final production version.
People get used to that one-pedal driving feel or being able to coast more. Having options is good.
Definitely. And the charging setup is also kind of different.
How so?
The charge port itself is integrated right into the driver's side taillight.
In the taillight, that's unique.
Yeah, pretty slick. And apparently the taillight itself will visually indicate the state of charge.
Oh, cool. Like a little light bar filling up.
Something like that, yeah. A clever, intuitive way to just glance and see how full it is.
And what plug does it use?
It's got the NACS plug, the Tesla standard.
Okay, good call. That's becoming the dominant one in North America. Opens up that whole supercharger network.
Big advantage. Plus, they've also included power outlets in the bed.
Oh, yeah. Like regular household ones?
Both. Standard 120-volt household-style outlets and a more powerful 240-volt outlet, too.
Okay, that 240V is useful. For tools, camping gear. Increases the utility quite a bit.
Yeah, makes it a mobile power source.
All right, let's step inside. The interior of the prototype. What was the vibe?
Seems like function over high-end luxury was the priority, at least for the prototype.
Which is fair.
Doug Demuro call it basic but functional. Seems about right.
Any standout design things inside?
One interesting element is how the front seats are mounted. They're on pedestals.
Pedestals, why would they do that?
It's actually a clever way to maximize legroom, especially for the rear passengers.
How does that work?
By raising the front seats up a bit, they create more foot space underneath for the people sitting behind.
Ah, gotcha. So despite the wheel wells intruding maybe, you still get decent rear footroom. Smart packaging again.
Exactly. Addresses a common issue in smaller vehicles.
What about the dash? Instruments, screens.
The gauge cluster looked pretty distinct, kind of segmented, different areas for different info.
Helps process info quickly, maybe.
Yeah, should help avoid feeling overwhelmed. And then there's the big center infotainment screen.
Standard these days. Was it working?
Not fully functional in the prototype, apparently, but clearly intended as the main hub for, climate, media, settings.
The usual stuff. Any cool tech features highlighted?
One thing both reviewers specifically pointed out and seemed to really like was the integrated blind spot camera system.
Oh, yeah. How's that work?
Activates automatically when you hit the turn signal. Shows you a clear video feed of your blind spot on the main screen.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great safety feature, especially in city traffic.
Definitely. And kind of surprisingly, they included dual glove boxes.
Cool. One for the driver, too.
Yeah, one on each side of the dashboard. More storage.
Storage seems to be a theme. Any other spots?
Yeah, they mentioned storage in the center console, the armrest, even some hidden cup holders to keep things tidy.
Hidden cup holders are always appreciated.
And the door panels are apparently designed to be wider than usual.
Which means bigger door pockets.
Exactly. More useful storage space there, too.
What about materials inside? Anything interesting?
There was a noticeable use of cloth, but also cork in some areas.
Cork? Like on a wine bottle?
Huh. Yeah, kind of. Probably reflects a push towards sustainability.
Interesting choice. Durable enough for a car interior?
That's a good question. They did mention the durability of cork in a vehicle environment is still being evaluated for the final production version.
Okay, so maybe tentative? But cool, they're exploring options beyond plastic and leather.
Yeah, seeing more sustainable materials is definitely a trend.
How's the backseat situation? You mentioned the pedestals helped legroom. Is it usable back there?
Designed for 3 passengers across.
Yeah.
And yeah, those front pedestals seem key for making the legroom decent.
Any amenities for rear passengers?
Yeah.
Vents? Charging?
They included a rear climate vent, which is crucial for comfort.
Good.
And they're considering options like heated rear seats, maybe rear climate controls too.
Nice touches.
And for storage back there, double pockets on the front seat backs. And they plan to include USB-C ports.
Okay, standard stuff now, but good to have. Sounds reasonably well thought out for passengers.
Seems like it, yeah. Trying to make the most of the space.
All right, let's shift to engineering manufacturing. Where's this thing being built?
They're emphasizing primarily American-made.
Okay.
So they do acknowledge, some components will inevitably come from overseas, global supply chains and all that.
Right. Unavoidable these days.
Yeah.
What about the most expensive part, the batteries?
Critically, they intend to build their battery packs in-house.
Oh, interesting. Vertical integration.
Yeah. Since the battery is usually the single biggest cost driver in an EV, doing it themselves could be key to controlling the final price.
Makes sense. Are they thinking about repairs? Maintenance costs?
They are. They're aiming to keep repair costs down, partly by using readily available off-the-shelf components where it makes sense.
So not everything bespoke and expensive to replace.
Hopefully not. And they're apparently even learning from the repair experiences of other EV makers, like thinking carefully about where they place things like tie rods so they're less likely to get damaged easily.
That's smart. learning from others' mistakes, or maybe just challenges.
Yeah. And it sounds like they've leaned heavily on software tools for design and aero development.
It's speeding things up.
Yeah, reducing the need for some of the traditional, more time-consuming engineering steps. Jay Leno seemed particularly surprised to learn how complex and expensive just meeting federal headlight regulations is.
Huh. Yeah, you wouldn't think headlights would be that complicated or costly.
Apparently, it's a whole thing, one of those behind-the-scenes manufacturing hurdles.
But what about safety? That cab-forward design,
Yeah.
does it raise concerns?
Naturally, crash safety is a huge focus. They stress they are actively working to meet all the federal motor vehicle safety standards.
FMVSS. Right.
Yeah, and focusing not just on the structure holding up, but specifically on how the occupants would fare in different collision scenarios. Occupant reaction, they called it.
Okay, good. They're prioritizing that.
Wow.
So initial manufacturing, California.
Slated for California initially, yeah. But they're also looking at potential expansion into the Midwest later on.
Makes sense for logistics, maybe, as they scale up.
Could be. And what's really kind of remarkable is that the prototypes we're seeing, they were developed by a core team of only around 11 people.
11 people built that. Wow.
Yeah. Speaks volumes about their efficiency, their agility, being able to iterate quickly based on feedback from reviews like these.
Very lean operation. Okay, let's talk driving experience. What did Jay and Doug say about actually driving the prototype?
Both commented on that distinct seating position. Very far forward.
Right. The cab forward thing again? What's that like?
Offers a unique viewpoint, apparently. Jake compared it almost to driving an old VW bus.
Okay, I can picture that. Takes some getting used to.
Doug mentioned it takes a little adjustment if you're coming from a conventional car with a long hood out front.
But how did it handle? Steer. Accelerate.
Despite that seating position, the steering was described as surprisingly quick and responsive.
Good.
And the acceleration, especially in that dual-motor prototype they drove, genuinely impressive.
The 500 horsepower one?
Yeah. They even noted it was pretty easy to get the rear wheels to break traction if you weren't careful. Shows the power.
Fun, but maybe needs traction control dialed in. What about ride quality?
Reported to be better than they expected for a vehicle in this sort of segment. Less truck-like, maybe?
Interesting. But it is a prototype. Any telltale signs?
Oh, yeah. Definitely some prototypeness, rattles, some wind noise.
Expected.
Some features weren't fully working yet, like the power windows didn't go all the way down, the horn didn't work, stuff like that.
Standard pre-production quirks.
And they noted some limitations in how far the steering wheel could actually move or adjust in the prototype, things to be ironed out.
For sure. Did the physical buttons versus touchscreen debate come up?
It did. Telo seems to be aware of that ongoing discussion. They're apparently considering a hybrid approach.
Like some buttons, some screen?
Yeah, potentially physical controls, maybe with haptic feedback to give you that tactile feel back, even if it's not a traditional button.
Okay, trying to find that balance. It's clear they're thinking about usability.
Seems like it. Listening to feedback.
Okay, wrapping up. Market position. Who is this truck actually for?
Clearly aimed at city dwellers, primarily. People who need truck practicality, but in a package that works in an urban environment.
The small footprint, the maneuverability.
Exactly. But as Jay Leno put it, despite the small size, it seems to have a certain big truck energy.
Huh. I like that. Big truck energy.
Yeah. And they're even looking at potential fleet options for commercial buyers.
Makes sense. Delivery companies, tradespeople in cities could be a good fit.
Yeah, that utility aspect.
How's the initial reaction been? Pre-orders?
Apparently quite strong. They mentioned over 8,500 pre-orders already placed.
8,500. That's significant interest for a startup.
It really is. And the target pricing.
Yeah, what are they aiming for?
Initial models are targeting the low to mid $40,000 range.
Okay, 40-something thousand. That's ambitious, but potentially very competitive if they hit it.
Definitely. And they're hoping to start production and actually begin deliveries by the end of next year.
End of 2025.
Okay, that's soon.
Ambitious timeline, for sure. Hitting that price point and that delivery date will be absolutely crucial for them.
No kidding. Did Doug give it a score? His Doug score?
He did. 56 out of 100.
56. How does that break down? What did he like? What were the deductions for?
He highlighted the impressive performance, the tech, the practicality, especially that midgate and tunnel, and the intended reasonable pricing as big positives.
Makes sense.
But he also noted the, pre-production quality aspects as areas needing improvement for the final version.
Understandable. As he often points out, the real test is, can they actually build it well, and sell it at that target price?
Exactly. Execution is everything from here on out.
So overall, the Telo MT1, it definitely feels like a fresh take, doesn't it? A real rethink of the pickup truck. Absolutely, especially for modern city life. That clever packaging, the electric powertrain, it offers a really unique blend of utility and efficiency in a small size.
Yeah, so key takeaways from this whip check for me are that surprisingly tiny size,
Yeah.
but with a genuinely usable bed, especially with the midgate.
Right, the 8-foot capability.
That ingenious monster tunnel storage.
She's super clever.
The overall focus on just practical design touches and that ambitious goal of making it accessible price-wise.
Yeah, hitting that $40K mark would be huge.
So this whip check has given us a pretty good overview, I think.
Yeah, scratch the surface nicely.
Yeah.
But like we said, there's definitely more detail in the full video reviews.
For sure. So we absolutely encourage you listening to check out Jay Leno's Garage and Doug Demuro's full reviews.
Yeah.
See the Telo MT1 in action, get their complete unfiltered perspective.
It's definitely worth the watch if you're intrigued.
So if you found this whip check insightful, please do remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth looks at interesting cars, emerging tech, all that good stuff.
Helps us out a lot.
It does. And let us know what should we put under the microscope for our next whip check. Drop your suggestions in the comments below.